The morning sun cast sharp beams through the towering windows of Adrian Blake's penthouse. Golden light slanted across the room, glinting off steel surfaces and bouncing off the glass of the infinity pool. From this height, downtown Chicago looked like a miniature model, clean, predictable, and utterly in his control. Adrian had been awake since 4:53 a.m., precisely 7 minutes before his scheduled wake-up call. Sleep was never something he relied on, at least not for rest. He used it like any other resource, allocated, minimized, optimized. "Good morning, Mr. Blake," chimed the voice of Ava, the AI assistant system embedded into every inch of his luxurious home. "Today's schedule includes your keynote at the AI Futures Conference at 9 a.m., followed by a strategic board meeting at 11:30 and a closed-door session with the Department of Defense at 3 p.m. regarding Project Sentinel." Adrian didn't reply. He was already halfway through brushing his teeth, his mind scanning through yesterday's analytics from the European data labs. Ava didn't need feedback. She only existed to inform, organize, and obey, just the way Adrian preferred it. Within 30 minutes, he was dressed in a tailored navy suit, the cuffs of his crisp white shirt perfectly aligned. He stared into the mirror for a moment, not out of vanity, but to confirm the image. Controlled, polished, untouchable. He adjusted his steel gray tie, then walked into the private elevator that descended to the garage. His driver, Marco, was already waiting beside the matte black BMW 8 Series. "Morning, sir," he greeted. Adrian gave a curt nod and slid into the back seat, eyes immediately glued to the dashboard tablet displaying real-time updates from Blake Tech's global systems. The car moved silently, the only sound a faint hum from the engine. In the world outside the tinted windows, people were waking up to their lives. In Adrian's world, life never slept. At the AI Futures Conference, Adrian's arrival sparked a ripple of excitement. Journalists murmured. Venture capitalists exchanged subtle glances. Some young engineers pulled out their phones, whispering his name as if spotting a mythical figure. Adrian took the stage at exactly 9 a.m., not a second late. His voice, calm and exact, echoed through the hall as he unveiled the next leap in machine learning, an adaptive emotional intelligence framework designed to replicate human empathy in AI. "We're not just teaching machines to think," he said, pacing the stage with practiced poise. "We're teaching them to understand." Applause thundered. Cameras flashed. But as he left the podium and returned to the VIP suite, Adrian felt nothing. That evening, he stood alone in the penthouse, swirling a glass of scotch that had been aged longer than many of his employees had been alive. The city sparkled beneath him, the skyline ablaze with ambition. His empire, Blake Tech, had offices in 42 countries, 56 patents pending, and a valuation that made him one of the richest men in North America. He had it all. So why did it feel like so little? He crossed to the bookshelf and pulled out the Tech Titans magazine with his face on the cover. The title, "The Man Who Taught Machines to Feel." What a joke, he thought. Machines might be learning emotions, but Adrian Blake had spent years unlearning his own. The next day, a call came from Jasper Lee. "Adrian," the voice crackled through the speaker, warm and loud. "Still too rich for small talk, or can an old friend steal 10 minutes? Adrian's eyes flickered with rare amusement. "Jasper Lee," he said, leaning back in his office chair. "Still making mines in the neighborhood center?" "Still trying," Jasper replied. "Listen, I could use a favor. We're launching a scholarship initiative for underprivileged teens. Nothing fancy. Coding, design, real-world tech. I need someone high-profile to back us." Adrian frowned. "I don't do PR charity, Jasper." "This isn't for PR," Jasper replied, voice softer. "It's for the kids. Just show up at the launch. Say a few words, that's all I'm asking." Adrian paused. He owed Jasper. Back in college, Jasper had tutored him in algorithms for free, covered him once when he was late on rent, even introduced him to Clara. Clara. The name hit like a tremor. His throat tightened reflexively, but he masked it. "Text me the address," he said shortly. "I'll see what I can do." The event was in a modest community center on the south side, far from the polished glass of Blake Tech's headquarters. Children ran through the halls with half-eaten sandwiches. Parents stood in corners, holding coffee cups with both hope and weariness in their eyes. Adrian arrived without an entourage. dressed in a smart blazer and dark jeans. His PR team had insisted on the approachable genius look. A sea of curious eyes turned as he walked in. Jasper greeted him with a bear hug and a laugh. "You clean up well." Adrian scanned the banners and displays. Posters lined the walls. Future coders of Chicago, tech for all, creativity meets code. Tables displayed student projects, some simple, others surprisingly sophisticated. And that was when he saw her. She was maybe 11, standing alone at a corner table, carefully adjusting the settings on a touchscreen interface, controlling a robotic arm. Her long brown hair was tied back in a ponytail, and she wore a faded cardigan. But it was the bracelet that caught his eye. A delicate string of silver and blue stones, sapphire beads laced on a band so familiar it made Adrian's heart stop. Number it couldn't be. He stepped closer, drawn like gravity. "That's an interesting bracelet," he said casually. The girl looked up. Her eyes were sharp, curious. There was a depth in them that made him pause. "Thank you," she said. "It was my mom's. She passed away 2 years ago. I wear it sometimes, when I miss her." Adrian's breath caught. "What was her name?" he asked softly. "Clara Monroe," the girl said. "She was an art teacher." The world around Adrian blurred. The sound of laughter, clapping, cameras clicking, all melted into white noise. His voice barely held together. "What's your name?" "Luna," she replied. "Luna Monroe." He forced a smile. "That's a beautiful name." She smiled back, then turned her attention to the robotic arm. Adrian stepped away slowly, heart pounding. He didn't need a DNA test. He didn't need confirmation. He knew. She was his daughter. Adrian Blake sat motionless in the backseat of his car, the city flashing by in a blur. For once, he wasn't looking at the numbers on his tablet. His mind, usually a machine of precision, was a chaos of fragmented thoughts, memories, and one undeniable truth. Luna was his daughter. The bracelet was the proof. The custom design he had given Clara over a decade ago. Tiny sapphire beads, their initials, A and C, engraved subtly into the silver clasp, something only the two of them knew. And now it was on the wrist of a little girl with Clara's cheekbones in his eyes. He hadn't thought of Clara Monroe in years, or more accurately, he had avoided thinking of her. But seeing that bracelet had brought everything back. The laughter, the rooftop wine nights, her sketches scattered across the hardwood floor. The fight, the last fight, 12 years ago. He had just secured the first major round of funding for his startup, $20 million from a San Francisco investor, with a reputation for turning companies into empires. The catch? He had to move immediately. Leave Chicago. Leave her. "It's just for a year," Adrian had said, brushing her hair from her face. "Maybe 2. We'll FaceTime every night. I'll fly back when I can." Clara had sat silently, her sketchpad resting on her lap. Finally, she said, "You always think there's a later, but your laters keep stacking up until there's no space left for now." He had laughed, nervous. "This is for us, Clara. I'm building something for us." "No," she said, "you're building something for you and asking me to wait in the margins." He remembered the silence that followed, and how, in the end, she had handed him the bracelet back. "When you're done conquering the world, Adrian," she had whispered, "I hope you remember who you used to be. And maybe you'll remember me too." He left the next morning. She didn't return his calls. By the time he thought about reaching out again, 3 years later, it felt too late. Life had accelerated. The company had grown. The regrets had been buried beneath IPO filings and international conferences. Up and now, Luna. Adrian felt his pulse racing again as the car pulled into the underground garage of his penthouse. He couldn't go inside. Not yet. "Marco," he said, "take me to the storage unit." His driver raised an eyebrow in the rearview mirror but said nothing. 15 minutes later, they arrived at a nondescript building on the edge of the city. Inside, behind rows of coded lockers and biometric scans, was a climate-controlled space Adrian hadn't visited in years. The lock clicked open. A single light flickered on. Stacks of boxes lined the walls. Early prototypes, college awards, his mother's old photo albums, and a dark blue trunk labeled in thick Sharpie, CM. He opened it slowly. Inside were the remnants of another life. Clara's paintings, her letters, their old Polaroids, ticket stubs from concerts, a copy of Leaves of Grass with her annotations in the margins. And in the corner, a small velvet pouch. He reached for it. Empty. The bracelet was gone. Of course it was. It was now wrapped around the wrist of a little girl who looked up at him and smiled without knowing she had just upended his entire existence. That night, Adrian didn't sleep. He sat at his kitchen table, staring at a photograph of Clara he'd found in the trunk. She was 26 in it, barefoot in the grass at Lincoln Park, laughing as she held up a ridiculous painting of Adrian in a toga. She had always said he was running too fast to notice what mattered. And now she was gone. And their daughter had grown up without him. By morning, he had made a decision. No lawyers, no PR, no control. This wasn't a business deal. This was Luna's life. He couldn't simply insert himself into it like a bullet point on a to-do list. He needed help. So he called Jasper. They met that afternoon in a quiet cafe near the community center. "You look like hell," Jasper said, sliding into the booth. Adrian gave a humorless smile. "Feels worse." Jasper sipped his coffee, studying him. "So what's this really about?" Adrian hesitated, then said, "The girl at the event. Luna Monroe. She's mine. Clara never told me." Jasper blinked. "You're sure?" "She had the bracelet." The bracelet. Jasper whistled low. "Damn. I want to know her," Adrian said, "but I don't want to destroy the life she's already built." Jasper nodded slowly. "Luna's been through a lot. Clara's death hit her hard. Her grandmother, Evelyn, is raising her now. Fierce woman. Doesn't trust easily." "I wouldn't either," Adrian said. "I just need a way in. Carefully." After a pause, Jasper offered, "We've got an advanced design workshop starting next week. Luna was on the short list. It's invite only. You could volunteer." Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Me? Teach?" Jasper smirked. "She's into digital art, animation, tech that meets creativity. Sound familiar?" Adrian swallowed. Clara's art, his code. The thought of Luna combining them was almost too much to bear. "I'll do it," he said. Jasper clapped him on the shoulder. "Don't screw this up, man. She's special." Over the next few days, Adrian prepared like he would for a product launch. Not with scripts or marketing plans, but by listening. He watched videos on teenage learning styles, researched digital art tools Luna might use, dug out his old UI/UX files from when he still coded for fun, not profit. When the first session came, he arrived early, dressed down in jeans and a hoodie. Not as Adrian Blake, CEO, just Adrian. Luna entered the lab with a quiet confidence, notebook tucked under one arm, a stylus in the other. She glanced at him. Recognition flashed, but she didn't say anything. "Hi again," he offered. "You're volunteering?" she asked skeptically. He smiled, trying to be useful. She shrugged, then moved to her workstation. Adrian hovered, unsure whether to step in or back off. Finally, he asked, "What are you working on?" "A kinetic storyboard," she replied without looking up. "For a short animation. Emotion-driven character arcs." He blinked. "That's advanced." "I like making things that feel alive," she said simply. And just like that, a door opened. Over the next 90 minutes, Adrian watched her work. Sharp, focused, meticulous. She coded motion paths with precision and colored with intuition. Every movement she drew had intent. When she asked for feedback, he gave it. When she struggled with a rendering bug, he crouched beside her and found the error. By the end of the session, she looked at him, not with awe or fear, but with the eyes of someone genuinely curious. "You know your stuff," she said. "I've been at it a while," he said. She paused, then added, "You don't talk like other billionaires." Adrian chuckled. "That's because most billionaires shouldn't be talking at all." Luna cracked a smile. And Adrian, for the first time in what felt like years, felt warmth spread in his chest. It wasn't victory. It was something better. Over the next several weeks, Adrian Blake did something no one at Blake Tech thought him capable of. He changed. It began with small things. Blocking out 2 afternoons a month for the community center workshops, refusing to let his executive assistant reschedule them for investor calls or interviews. Then came the larger shifts, arriving earlier than necessary, staying late to help clean up, and, perhaps most telling, smiling. The students noticed it first. "Mr. Blake's not as scary as he looks," one boy said, after Adrian helped him untangle a loop in his code. "He actually listens," added another, "like he wants to understand what we're making." But to Adrian, it wasn't about image or reputation. It wasn't even about corporate responsibility. It was about Luna. She was the reason he kept showing up, kept trying. Each session, she surprised him. Her focus, her creativity, the way she challenged assumptions. She didn't care that he was one of the richest men in the country. She didn't treat him like a celebrity or a savior. She just treated him like a teacher, an ally. And to Adrian, that meant everything. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, the lab was quiet. Just the hum of machines and the gentle clatter of styluses tapping glass screens. Adrian moved through the room, checking in with each student. When he reached Luna's station, she was sketching frames for an animated scene. A young girl standing in front of a wall of mirrors, each reflecting a different version of herself. "It's called Echoes," Luna explained. "It's about identity, how people see you versus how you see yourself." Adrian studied the images. The art was simple but powerful. "That's profound," Luna shrugged. "I guess it's kind of personal." She hesitated, then turned in her seat. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian tensed, then nodded. "Why are you here?" she asked. He blinked. "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're, like, a tech mogul. Why would someone like you spend time in a community center helping a bunch of kids build apps and animations?" Adrian paused. The easy answer, about giving back or PR optics, was on the tip of his tongue. But something in Luna's gaze made him stop. He exhaled slowly. "Because once I was like you." Her eyebrows rose. "You? Really?" He nodded. "My mom worked 3 jobs. We couldn't afford internet, so I spent my afternoons at a public library, teaching myself how to code. Eventually, a teacher let me into the computer lab after hours. That's how I built my first program." Luna was silent. "I never forgot that," Adrian added. "I told myself that if I ever made it, I'd try to be that teacher for someone else." Luna's expression softened. "That's kind of cool." Adrian smiled. "Thanks." They worked in silence for a while, then Luna said, "I don't remember my mom much, just bits and pieces. But I know she used to draw like this." "She was brilliant," Adrian said before he could stop himself. Luna's stylist paused. "You knew her?" Adrian froze. Time seemed to stretch. He cleared his throat. "A long time ago? We were close." Luna looked at him, eyes narrowing slightly. "Was that before she died?" "Yes," he said. "Before she had you." There it was, a crack in the wall. Luna didn't press further, but something had shifted, and Adrian knew. She felt it too. That night, back at his penthouse, Adrian stood at the window, staring out at the skyline. The bracelet on Luna's wrist haunted his thoughts. So did her eyes, so full of Clara's fire. He poured himself a drink but didn't touch it. Instead, he walked into the guest room, the one he had begun converting into an art studio. Canvases leaned against the walls. Digital pads and 3D rendering tools lay neatly organized on the desk. On the shelf sat a copy of Leaves of Grass, gifted from Jasper. Adrian had underlined one line years ago, but had never really understood it until now. "I am large, I contain multitudes." Now he did. At the next session, Luna approached him during break. "I've been thinking," she said. "You said you knew my mom. What was she like back then?" Adrian felt his chest tighten. "Clara. She was bold. She challenged everything. She once threw a paintbrush at me because I said computers were more important than creativity." Luna giggled. "Sounds like her." "She loved light," he added. "Sunlight, lamplight, candlelight. She used to say the world was easier to bear when it was properly lit." Luna smiled, but then her expression turned thoughtful. "She used to talk about someone, a friend from before I was born. She never said his name, but sometimes when she was sad, she'd look at a photo she kept in her wallet." Adrian felt a lump form in his throat. I think it was you, Luna said quietly. He met her eyes, uncertain. Then she whispered, Was it? Adrian inhaled sharply. Yes. The word was barely audible, but it felt like thunder. Luna looked down at her hands, her fingers twisted together. So, does that mean? He nodded. I didn't know, he said, voice shaking. Not until I saw the bracelet. I never knew Clara was pregnant. I never knew you existed. Luna didn't speak for a long time. Then she said, I should be mad, right? I should hate you for not being there. You can be, Adrian said. I'd understand. She looked up. But I'm not. I just don't know what this means. Adrian crouched in front of her, suddenly vulnerable in a way no boardroom had ever made him feel. It means that if you want to know me, I'll be here. No pressure, no expectations, just here. Luna blinked fast. Okay. And in that small, tentative word, Adrian felt the first thread of something real. Later, when she'd gone home with her grandmother Evelyn, Adrian remained in the lab, staring at the screen where Luna had left her project open. Echoes. He clicked through the animation. Each mirror showed a different Luna. Artist, inventor, dreamer, daughter. But in the final frame, there was a new reflection. A tall figure standing behind her. And in her hand, she was holding two bracelets. One blue, one silver. The next morning, Adrian Blake stood at his penthouse window, coffee untouched in hand, watching the early sun stretch across the Chicago skyline. The world below moved in quiet rhythms, trains rushing by, cyclists weaving through traffic, and shop owners unlocking doors. But for once, he wasn't thinking about productivity metrics or expansion deals. He was thinking about Luna. Their conversation from the day before echoed in his mind. Her hesitant voice, the moment of recognition, the way she didn't recoil, but also didn't reach. She had accepted the truth with more calm than he deserved, and now she held the power to decide what came next. Later that day, Adrian met with Evelyn Monroe, Luna's grandmother. They sat across from one another at a modest cafe in Hyde Park, the table between them cluttered with 2 cups of tea and 1,000 unspoken questions. Evelyn was a woman of quiet strength, gray hair tied neatly in a bun, eyes sharp beneath tortoiseshell glasses. She held her tea in both hands, as if weighing his words even before he spoke. So, she said after a pause, you're him. Adrian nodded. Yes, I was with Clara, before she had Luna. I didn't know she was pregnant. Evelyn studied him. Clara was proud, too proud to chase someone who had already chosen their path. I didn't choose to leave her, Adrian said quietly. I chose ambition. I thought I could build a future big enough to come back to her with. I was wrong. Evelyn sipped her tea. Clara always believed in people's potential, even when it hurt her. She never spoke poorly of you, never said your name, but I knew she still wondered. She was planning to contact me, Adrian added. Luna said there was a journal. She had written about it, but she died before she could. Evelyn nodded solemnly. Yes, it was a storm. She'd been driving back from a gallery opening. Adrian's voice dropped. And Luna, she's been with you ever since? She's my whole world, Evelyn said. And now you show up, like a ghost stepping out of her past. I don't want to replace anything, Adrian said quickly. I just want to know my daughter, if she'll let me. Evelyn watched him carefully. Then she said something he didn't expect. She doesn't need another guardian, but she might need a guide. Adrian looked up. She's at that age, Evelyn continued, searching for identity, connection, belonging. If you're willing to earn her trust, slowly and respectfully, I won't stand in the way. Adrian swallowed hard. Thank you. I won't fail her. Don't say that, Evelyn replied. Just show up. That's how you start. And so he did. Week after week, Adrian kept showing up, not as a tech mogul, not as a public figure, but simply as dad, in training. He helped Luna refine her animation. He brought in software from Blake Tech's Creative Suite and taught her tricks from his early days, how to loop motion curves, how to use layered physics simulations, how to animate feeling. She showed him how to make things beautiful. They worked side by side, an artist and an engineer building bridges between their worlds. One afternoon, as they were reviewing Luna's storyboard, she turned to him and asked, "Do you think Mom would have liked this?" Adrian smiled. "She would have loved it. She once told me the best art is the kind that makes people feel something they didn't expect. That's what you're doing." Luna nodded, chewing on the end of her stylus. Then she said almost offhandedly, "Uncle Rob doesn't trust you." Adrian raised an eyebrow. "Your mom's brother?" She nodded. "He said people like you always want something." Adrian sighed. "He's not wrong to be protective. I'm the stranger here." Luna hesitated. "You're not a stranger anymore." His heart swelled at that simple statement. "Thanks, kiddo," she smirked. "Don't call me that. I'm not 8. "Noted." They shared a laugh. And in that moment, the air between them was lighter, like they were no longer circling something fragile, but starting to live through it. That evening, back at his penthouse, Adrian opened his safe and retrieved a small box. Inside was the original match to Clara's bracelet. He hadn't had the heart to throw it away all these years. Now he had a reason to bring it back to life. He called the same jeweler who had designed the first one and asked for a second, matching sapphires, similar silver links, but this time, 2 new initials woven discreetly into the clasp, H and A, Harper and Adrian. But it wouldn't be a gift to claim something. It would be a gift to honor something. Weeks later, Luna invited him to her school's spring showcase, a presentation of student projects from art and technology classes. Adrian rearranged meetings, canceled a speaking event in Tokyo. He sat in a fold-out chair beside Evelyn, watching with pride as Luna introduced her short film. Echoes had evolved since the first time he'd seen it. Now each mirror version of the girl in the animation was accompanied by sound. A voice, a story, a memory. In the final scene, the girl stood between 2 adults, one with paint-stained hands, the other typing code into a glowing screen. The 2 held out their hands. The girl reached for both. The screen faded to black. Adrian was speechless. The applause roared. He wiped his eyes before anyone could see. After the event, Luna found him outside. "You really came," she said. "I wouldn't miss it," Adrian said. "You were incredible." She kicked a pebble with her shoe, then pulled something from her bag. It was her mom's journal. "I think you should read it," she said softly. "There's stuff in here. About you. About me. Maybe it'll help." Adrian took the book with trembling hands. "Thank you." They stood in silence a moment longer. Then Luna added, "By the way, I saw the new bracelet on your wrist." Adrian glanced down. "I had it made, to match the one your mom had." She nodded. "It's nice. We match now." He looked at her, really looked, and in her eyes he saw it, not just Clara's reflection, but his daughter. Adrian Blake sat at his desk in the penthouse that no longer felt like a fortress. On the screen in front of him was a new kind of data, Clara Monroe's journal, now scanned and digitized with care. Each page was a glimpse into a life he had missed, a window into a woman who had continued to write about him long after their last goodbye. Luna had given it to him without ceremony, with a simple, "You should see who she really was." And now Adrian was doing just that. He scrolled slowly, reading the looping handwriting he remembered so well. Each entry hit him like a wave. He doesn't know. "I'm pregnant, and he's in San Francisco, probably pitching to investors. I don't want to trap him, but I wish I didn't have to do this alone." Luna took her first steps today. She has his eyes. She's quiet, curious, always watching, just like Adrian used to be. Sometimes I wonder if I made the right decision, keeping him in the dark. But what kind of father would he have been back then? Would he have tried to love us, or would we have just slowed him down? Maybe one day if he finds her, he'll be ready to love her the way she deserves. Adrian leaned back, tears forming in his eyes. Not just for the lost years, but for the love Clara had protected. Even in silence, he had so much to make up for. The next weekend, he met Luna at the community center. The sun was out, and kids played in the courtyard. She wore her usual cardigan, sleeves rolled up, paint smudged on her wrist from helping decorate the art room mural. "Hey," she said, casual but warm. "Hey," Adrian replied, mirroring her energy. "I saw your name on the new scholarship plaque," she added. Clara Monroe Creative Fund. That was you, he nodded. I wanted her name to be what opened doors for other kids, not mine. She looked at him for a long moment, then smiled. She would have liked that. They walked together toward the back garden, where Luna often went to sketch. There, under the blooming magnolia tree, she paused. Can I ask you something kind of weird? She said. Sure. She hesitated. What were you like as a kid? Adrian blinked. No one's asked me that in about 30 years. Luna laughed. I'm serious. Well, I was quiet, obsessed with machines. I once took apart my mom's microwave because I wanted to know how the turntable worked. Did you fix it? Nope. Ruined it completely. We had cold dinners for a month, Luna giggled. I love that. He chuckled too. She didn't. Then her voice softened. Did she love you? Adrian looked up at the sky for a moment. More than I realized. I didn't see it then. I see it now. Luna pulled her knees to her chest, arms wrapped around them. Do you ever wish things had been different? All the time, Adrian admitted, but wishing doesn't change the past. Only what we do next can. Luna nodded slowly. Do you want to be part of what comes next? He looked at her, heart pounding. More than anything. Okay, she said. Then we start there. Over the next months, they started to build something steady. Adrian was there for her school presentations. He came early to her robotics competition. They worked on a collaborative project, an interactive art app that combined Luna's designs with Adrian's back-end logic. It gained attention online. A small feature in Tech Today called it the future of father-daughter innovation. But none of that compared to the quiet moments. Like Sunday mornings at Evelyn's, where Adrian learned how Luna liked her eggs, scrambled, soft, no salt. Or the nights they built digital storyboards for her next animation, sitting cross-legged on the floor of her new studio, once his guest room, now painted in soft lavender and filled with Luna's art supplies. The penthouse no longer felt cold. It felt alive. Then came the gala. Blake Tech's annual fundraising event was a black tie affair. Celebrities, CEOs, and donors packed into a glass ballroom suspended over the Chicago River. This year, Adrian wanted Luna to see the other side of his world, but only if she wanted to. I don't know, Luna said, adjusting the hem of her navy blue dress. It feels like one of those everyone stares kind of things. They'll stare, Adrian said gently, but only because you'll be the smartest person in the room. She rolled her eyes but smiled. Okay, fine, but only if I can wear sneakers under this thing. Deal. And she did. They arrived together, Adrian in a charcoal tuxedo, Luna with her sparkly sneakers, and both bracelets on her wrists. The moment they stepped into the ballroom, the chatter softened. Flashbulbs popped. Some guests whispered. Adrian ignored them all. He only saw Luna, her awe, her poise, the way she held herself with both shyness and strength. During his speech, he deviated from the teleprompter. This year, I've learned more about what it means to build something meaningful, he said. Not a company, not a product, but a connection. This young woman here has taught me that. He gestured toward Luna. She's not just my daughter. She's my co-creator, my inspiration. She reminds me that success means nothing if you don't have someone to share it with. Luna's eyes shimmered as the crowd applauded. Evelyn wiped away tears from the second row. Later, after the gala, they sat on the penthouse balcony under the stars. Luna looked up. You know what I realized tonight? What's that? I've never felt embarrassed to be around you. Adrian raised an eyebrow. That's a compliment, right? She laughed. Yes, it is. He leaned back in the lounge chair. And I've never been prouder to be around someone. They fell into a comfortable silence. Then Luna said, I think Mom would have forgiven you. Adrian didn't speak. He couldn't, because in Luna's voice he heard Clara's, and in her eyes he saw forgiveness already given. 1 year had passed since Adrian Blake saw the bracelet that changed his life. 12 months since he'd stepped into that community center with nothing but a name, a memory, and a mountain of guilt. Now the penthouse that once echoed with silence echoed with laughter. Once sterile white walls now held Luna's framed artwork, splashy, bold, full of life. The guest bedroom had become a permanent studio, and the boardroom had become, more often than not, a workshop where Adrian and Luna collaborated on passion projects no investor could ever price. And at the center of it all, Quietly watching over them was Evelyn Monroe, Luna's grandmother, who now lived in a sunlit apartment on the floor below. Not out of obligation, but by invitation. They had become something rare, a family built not by timelines but by choice. Adrian no longer lived by quarterly projections. He still had a hand in Blake Tech, of course, but the company was no longer his obsession. He had passed day-to-day operations to a trusted leadership team and restructured the company's mission to include large-scale investments in arts and education, especially for underrepresented youth. The Clara Monroe Foundation had launched its first summer initiative that year, combining technology and creativity in schools across the country. And its most ambitious project, a hybrid arts and coding school in Luna's name, was under construction just outside Chicago. "Will you cut the ribbon with me?" Adrian had asked Luna. "I mean, I am the Luna," she'd said with mock gravity. "So yeah, I guess I'll allow it." As Luna's 12th birthday approached, Adrian planned a celebration. Not extravagant, but meaningful. He invited a few close friends from the community center, Evelyn's relatives, and even Robert Monroe, Clara's brother, who had once stood firmly against Adrian's involvement in Luna's life. But over time, something had shifted. It wasn't just Adrian's persistence, it was his humility. The way he showed up quietly, over and over. The way he never demanded anything from Luna. Never tried to win. He simply earned her. And Robert had seen it. So when he received the invitation, he responded with just 2 words: "We'll be there." The birthday party was held in the rooftop garden of Adrian's penthouse. Sunlight filtered through trellises of climbing jasmine, and colorful lanterns swayed in the breeze. Luna, wearing a yellow sundress and glitter sneakers, darted between guests, laughing with her best friend Maya and showing off her latest sketchbook to Evelyn. Adrian stood back for a moment, taking it all in. The chatter, the music, the warmth, the girl at the center of it all, his daughter. When the cake was brought out, everyone gathered around. Candles flickered. Phones rose to capture the moment. And as the crowd began to sing, Luna looked at Adrian, eyes glowing. "Come stand with me," she whispered. He did, and when she blew out the candles, she made a wish she never shared aloud. But Adrian, watching her face, felt like he already knew. After cake, Luna pulled Adrian aside. "I have something for you." He blinked. "I thought you were the one getting presents today." She grinned. "This one's better." She led him to her computer and opened a program, an interactive archive she had been building for months. A digital museum of Clara Monroe, photos, journal entries, scanned art, audio clips of bedtime stories. A digitized painting Clara had done of Luna as a baby, layered with handwritten notes in the margin. "She was more than a memory," Luna said softly. "I wanted you to know her the way I did, not just as someone you loved, but as someone who loved me every single day." Adrian stared at the screen, overwhelmed. Then from a folder labeled Video Logs, Luna clicked play. Clara appeared on the screen, her auburn hair tied up, a familiar spark in her eyes. She spoke directly to the camera. "Luna, if you're watching this, then maybe you found him. Maybe Adrian came back into your life. If he did and you let him in, thank you. He wasn't ready before. But maybe now he is. Maybe now he's the kind of man who knows that love isn't earned by building towers or raising stock prices. It's earned in the quiet moments, the showing up, the choosing, over and over again." Adrian covered his mouth with his hand. He couldn't stop the tears. Luna didn't say anything. She just leaned her head against his shoulder. They stayed that way, watching Clara, listening to her voice, feeling her presence like sunlight through a window. That night, after the guests had gone, Adrian stepped into his study. From the safe, he retrieved the small velvet box he had kept for years. Inside was a new bracelet, sapphire and silver, matching the one Clara had once worn, but with a subtle difference. The initials L and A, tucked delicately into the clasp. He brought it to Luna's room and knocked gently. She looked up from her book, surprised. "I have something for you," he said. She opened the box and gasped softly. "It's beautiful. I thought maybe it could match the one your mom gave you." Luna picked up the bracelet, running her fingers over the links. "Now I have 2, she whispered. One for who I was, she said, and one for who I'm becoming. Adrian knelt beside her, voice low. You're becoming someone extraordinary. She smiled, then hugged him, tight, small arms wrapping around his neck. Happy birthday, he whispered into her hair. Thank you for letting me be here. I'm glad you came back, she replied. And for the first time in a long, long time, Adrian Blake felt complete. Not as a billionaire, not as a genius, but as a father.